Alright, so if we're going to be starting this with me attempting to explain like a crash course into what I think is the correct mindset to have with the deck, then I think what I have to start with is highlighting how very much this deck is a hyper aggressive deck that does not want to be attempting to scale into the late game. Which is a weird thing to say because this is a deck that is totally capable of scaling into the late game well. But it is only capable of doing that off of a good start. This is not the kind of deck that wants to keep a hand that has 4 lands, 3 drop, 4 drop, 5 drop. Like, most decks would be totally okay with that, and this deck is not one of them. Which means it's the kind of deck that has to mulligan a lot. Like, you saw me mulligan 2 hands that were like pseudo-functional into a hand that I'm actually excited to keep on 5. And the nice thing about this deck is that it is actually more so than most decks capable of doing that without really sacrificing too much. Like, this is a deck that functions sort of well on 5 mana, or on 5 cards. You would prefer to keep 7 cards and just have good cards, but it's a deck that's like very okay mulliganing a bunch because so much of its power is tied up in getting a super good start. And now I'm kind of in a position where I'm unsure if I want to get rid of the Goldspan Dragon or a land. Like, 3 lands is a lot, especially if I don't necessarily have this much stuff to work with resource-wise. But keeping Goldspan Dragon with 2 lands is also kind of iffy, so I'm going to err on the side of having more lands and hoping that I top deck action. But essentially, what you want to be mulliganing towards with this deck is hands that do a lot on the first 3 turns in the majority of matchups. The majority of times while playing this deck... Oh wow, that is a good draw. The majority of times while playing this deck, you are playing a deck that is a very acceleration-y aggro deck. And there are times where you are an acceleration-y deck that isn't necessarily an aggro deck, but you are always with this deck playing something that is sort of similar to a ramp deck. At least game 1. Except unlike ramp decks that like can afford to start their curve on 3 with Cultivate, you are a ramp deck that has to be doing things on turn 1 and 2, and you just have to mulligan for that. So here we get some interesting options where I can play this Goldspan Dragon and swing with Goldspan Dragon and Professional Facebreaker. They can double block Facebreaker in that case. If I just swing with Goldspan Dragon, they can double block. I trade with a Righteous Valkyrie. Maybe I'm okay with that. I'm not going to get the Professional Facebreaker trigger. Alternatively, I could tap Professional Facebreaker to a Jaspera Sentinel, swing with Goldspan and Jaspera Sentinel. Actually, I think that might be the best. Because the second Jaspera Sentinel doesn't provide me much value here. So now I'm either going to get a treasure off the Jaspera Sentinel, or they're not going to kill the Goldspan Dragon. So I'm essentially sacking this Jaspera Sentinel here to make a treasure, which is totally fine by me. Do I want to sack Professional Facebreaker treasure now? I could hit a 4-drop. No, I don't think I want to. If I had Chariot, that'd be a really good deal. But I can't hit a land. Here's a Retribution. That's a problem. Angels is one of the things this deck can have a harder time with. Most of our removal game 1 isn't well situated for dealing with 4 toughness creatures. or like large toughness creatures at all. Okay. Well, that's pretty bad. So they're just gonna wind up taking this damage from Goldspan Dragon here. No, they block with Youthful Valkyrie. Yeah. Oh, hey, cool, they let us trade. That's good. That would have been much worse if they just blocked with Youthful Valkyrie. Alright. So, we probably can't win this. Getting the second Professional Facebreaker at least gives us something here. Ugh. That kills us. Oh, but they did it in the wrong order, huh? That's lucky. I think they would have gained way more life if they had done it in the other order. Ooh! Lucky. Alright, jot it down, which means our Facebreaker gets to connect. I really want to kill this Righteous Valkyrie, which is a problem. Because I need to sack a treasure to do that. Oh, I should have fired up Lair of the Hydra for 3, and then swung. And if they blocked, I'd still have to sacrifice a treasure to kill the Righteous Valkyrie, though. Either way. Alright, let's see whether the opponent just doesn't top deck any angels at all. In which case, I don't have to use the Voltage Surge this turn. Yeah, I do. So I do. Unfortunate. I think this still results in them... What is this, 27? Yeah. Unfortunate. I don't think we want to take 16 damage here. You are allowed to sack Goldhound with Facebreaker, yes. Alright, well, given that the opponent still has resources, and we have flooded out quite terribly, this is not going to be good. Okay. Okay, so going back to the idea of what this deck is supposed to be doing. Angels is a little unique because we are a deck that is essentially about developing an early board presence and using an early board presence to simultaneously be aggressive and accelerate our board presence. But pretty much Facebreaker and being aggressive both require us to be able to connect with our creatures. So decks that go wide or go tall with creatures that can just sit back and block can be troublesome for that strategy. We can kind of get around that by having removal and by having menace, but 3 toughness and 4 toughness, especially 3 toughness 2-drops, tends to be the tricky spot with this deck, for this deck, because it means that we can't really use Voltage Surge efficiently to remove blockers, and we can't do things like turn 2 play Magda, turn 3 attack, have Magda trade with one of their creatures, and then just play a 4-drop. So when we're playing against decks that have high toughness creatures like that, we kind of want to replace Voltage Surge with Infernal Grasp. Largely the contending kind of desire with that is that the Angels deck is like a completely different deck depending on whether or not it has Jada. So you still have to like place some amount of removal. The good news is this isn't the Angels deck is typically not a deck where you want to play Negate or Disdainful Stroke or even Snakeskin Veil or Riveteers Charm very much, just because they don't play that many high-cost creatures. So we can still kind of split the difference, which means we're not really trading or changing very much here. We just kind of are pretty reliant on getting a fast start and mulliganing appropriately towards that. This kind of hand works. We would prefer to find a 2-drop, or at least any way to do something on turn 2, because the speed that we actually develop in the early game is pretty critical to whether or not we pressure them enough before they hit critical mass of creatures. Are we finally abusing how treasures give amazing mana fixing? Kind of. For the most part, we're just splashing for like high impact sideboard options out of what is otherwise just kind of a normal aggressive shell, where the treasures are mostly functioning as ramp, but yeah. Alright, opponent not doing anything crazy exciting for the first 2 turns is actually something I'm super okay with. So I'm imagining they're going to use a removal spell on Professional Facebreaker here. But that's kind of fine by me, because we're going to be playing Esika's Chariot, and Ziatora in our hand actually changes the context of how we play by a lot. I don't like not having a 5th land or any kind of treasure here, because I need to be able to actually fling stuff at their creatures with Ziatora. I guess I'm just going to have to hope to find an untapped land here, because I can't really afford to play Prosperous Innkeeper, because flinging the Prosperous Innkeeper doesn't actually kill a creature. So I have to take a play here that doesn't guarantee me Ziatora, knowing that I probably lose if we're not playing Ziatora next turn. Yeah, Furious Retribution is concerning. Okay, that's a good one. I think I'm willing to trade Chariot with a 5/5 in this position. Maybe that's incorrect. Maybe I'm not supposed to be willing to do that. Maybe it was just better to kill the Jada and have the Chariot, but alright, well, that's pretty good. Yeah, they have a Legion Angel, but they don't really have anything else they can do with it this turn. Alright, so Vanishing Verse doesn't hit Ziatora. It's generally pretty difficult for most white-black decks to kill Ziatora. So let's see. I can swing with Ziatora and the cat tokens, and then fling a cat token at Legion Angel if Legion Angel blocks. I guess they probably end up double blocking Ziatora, which I don't think is something that I want to allow. So let's just go as wide as possible, developing the board, knowing that we have a lot of acceleration from Ziatora over the next couple of turns. I can actually swing with the cat tokens, which I guess I should have done before playing this stuff. Because if they did decide to block a cat token with Legion Angel, then I could fling something at the Legion Angel. But no, we're gonna fling at Jada because I don't want their creatures being big. Legion Angel has double strike, meaning that I probably don't want to block it. Crippling Fear. Oh. Well, there go all of my nice little tokens. But that doesn't kill Ziatora. So we take 12 damage here, which is totally fine. Legion Angel doesn't have Vigilance, which means I can attack with Ziatora. Do I have a way to fling 6 damage through? I think I might. Okay, do we have lethal here? Voltage Surge the Aspirant. Upgrade Den. Or upgrade Ranger class. Animate Den 4 plus 7 plus 3. Oh, no. Put the counter on Den. Yeah, I have more than enough mana for that. Cool. So this kind of turned out to be a game where we did not win with long-term value, but did turn into a game where a somewhat accelerated start led to us being able to play a quick Ziatora, which just goes completely over the top of what they're doing. And part of the reason that I think that I struggle to define how this deck plays is because moments like that, where you just play Ziatora because you drew Ziatora, totally pivot how the deck functions. So, like, it requires so much reevaluation on the fly of what sort of axes you're trying to play the game on that it's difficult to, like, give super concrete game plans. And I guess that's more of why I'm trying to, like, describe the general goals of the deck to make it easier to understand how to evaluate what you're trying to do. Because the general rules of how the deck wants the game to start on the first 3 or 4 turns are usually always the same. It's just mulligan to hands that accelerate in a meaningful way. But then once you hit, like, turn 4 or 5, there are games where, like, against Esper, you just play super passively and defensively and actually outvalue them with Ziatora or Ziatora plus Magda. But, like, not every game, and it's so contextual based on what you draw. Well, still, nothing has changed here. This isn't really a matchup where our sideboard plan changes, so as far as, like, trying to explain how the general game plan or mentality post-board pivots, this isn't really a match that's illustrative of that. Okay, so we have Jaspera Sentinel, we have Infernal Grasp, we have Esika's Chariot. This is going to be one of those examples of a hand that doesn't really do the acceleration thing at all, that I'm willing to keep just because so many things top deck well off Jaspera Sentinel, and we're guaranteed to have removal on the first 2 turns, or, well, on turns 2 and 3, which against Angels is specifically something that I'm pretty excited to have, because they can do stuff like this that annoys me. And now we're, like, sort of in a position where we're possibly trying to play for value. I believe that I want a Riveteers Charm the Righteous Valkyrie so that I can get in 1 point of damage. I can't think of anything they could play next turn that would make me Riveteers Charm anything other than a Righteous Valkyrie. I am sort of incentivized to Riveteers Charm to try to hit my next land drop, but I don't actually think that from, like, a tempo standpoint I can accept that. Like, I think that's probably still just going to lose. So I think that I'd play as though I'm going to hit my 4th land, or like a Magda. knowing that I'll lose if I don't, but I don't think I can win if I do something different anyway. Okay, cool. Good talk, deck. Do I want to trade Jaspera Sentinel or Inspiring Overseer? I don't actually think that I do, because my hand is full of stuff that makes me want a Mana Dork. And I don't think the upside of 1 damage is very meaningful anyway. Yeah, well. Regrets. Still, we're not in a bad spot if we top deck 1 more land. Admittedly, a tap land was like the worst thing that could happen, but... well, it is still 1 more land. And our opponent is doing that Angels thing where they are top decking in a position where their deck is like, well, I mean, doesn't top deck well. I'm kind of thinking that maybe I'm not supposed to attack with Goldspan here, and I'm just supposed to hold it back to block. Forces them to use a removal spell on Goldspan. Oh, no, you know why I don't attack here? I don't attack here because I'm afraid of Wandering Emperor. Okay. Total width is cool. Okay, Righteous Valkyrie. I doubt they can gain 8 life this turn. Cool. Cool, cool, cool. Cool, cool. Very cool. Okay, so now is the part where not attacking got a little punished, because I can't play Goldspan and Ziatora, even if I were to attack with everybody. So I sort of feel like what I want to do is play Ziatora and fling Chariot at Righteous Valkyrie, which I think means that I swing with this Goldspan Dragon and the Chariot. What happens if they Vanishing Verse the Chariot? And then double block Goldspan with Youthful Valkyrie, Inspiring Overseer. I would still get to fling Jaspera Sentinel at Inspiring Overseer, which would be fine. Yeah, I think that's fine. Yeah. Alright, Infernal Grasp kind of sucks. But now we definitely have to start trying to race the opponent. Yeah, that's a pretty bad sign. If they just fire up Hive and attack, that's probably good for us. If they don't fire up Hive and attack, that's probably good for us. Okay. Well, hello, deck. Let's see how to do this. I think I'm just playing Goldspan Dragon. Crewing Chariot. No. Because attacking the Goldspan also makes a treasure, and Chariot can get chump blocked by Hive. I don't believe that I'm in danger of dying here. They would need to do 3 more damage next turn. Okay, so I could die to Wandering Emperor, I guess. Oh, was I supposed to? I was supposed to play Facebreaker pre-combat, actually. I would have 1 more treasure here. Okay. That's a pretty costly mistake. Having a treasure in play with Facebreaker would be a big deal. For some reason I was thinking that like Wandering Emperor made me not want to play Facebreaker so that I could play Jaspera Sentinel and have a flying blocker. Okay, so likely wouldn't have mattered. They swing with both here. Ooh, Halana and Alena is delightful. So they don't swing with both. They want to double block Goldspan. I think that means I probably just go tall on Goldspan. Alternatively, I could crew Chariot. I wouldn't have treasures if I crew Chariot here. No. Probably supposed to pump Goldspan. Alright, so now with two creatures with reach, it's hard for them to secretly kill me somehow. Ugh. Okay, well, killing Halana and Alena and Jaspera Sentinel is annoying, but they're in a position where they have to chump block Goldspan Dragon, block Den. Goldhound's actually an improvement. Because now I can actually crew the Den, or animate the Den and crew Chariot. That wasn't lethal or anything, but it does force them to chump block with both of their creatures. Which is pretty nifty. Alright, let's see. So this is another one of those hands that is all about making it to 4 mana. And we're kind of just going to have to live by the top of our deck and hope somewhere in the first draw step is a creature that costs 2 or less mana. And if not, we're just going to try to play Esika's Chariot on turn 4, having failed our gamble, and hope that that's still good enough to win. And sometimes Esika's Chariot on turn 4 on the play is good enough to win. Ew. Witherbloom Command is weird, because like it's not actually good in Standard, but it's good in older formats. Because the... Oh, down to the Bugbear. Could you have come in like any other turn? How powerful it is scales with how valuable destroying the non-creature permanent with mana cost 2 or less is. And there's just not a lot of permanents in Standard that cost 2 or less that are meaningful to destroy. But there are a ton in older formats. Teamer with a bunch of counter spells. Interesting. So this is probably the Teamer control deck with a bunch of Titan of Industries. That can be a tough matchup because Titan of Industry is like legitimately super hard for us to kill. And they just have a bunch of interaction while they wait to get there. So let's see, if they swing with this 2/2, I could either trade with a cat, which requires me to sorcery speed the other Esika's Chariot, or try to block with a Chariot, which opens me up to getting blown out by Voltage Surge. I think I'm probably supposed to accept getting blown out by Voltage Surge, because the alternative of having to play out a Ziatora and then just getting blown out by a Jwari Disruption is worse. Oh, alright. Well, at least they let me block first. That's cool. Okay, so let's see. How do we want to sequence this? I don't think the answer is play Ranger class, upgrade Ranger class. Is the answer Ziatora and kill the Goblin Shaman? Yes. Yes, it is. I would absolutely love to do the thing that denies my ramp control opponent mana. Which actually makes me kind of happy that they Voltage Surge sacking the treasure to kill Esika's Chariot, rather than trading the token and the Voltage Surge with Chariot and having a treasure. Okay. Cool, Goldspan Dragon doesn't matter. That's good to see. Magda also is, like, absolutely excellent. So let's see, how do we do this? How do we do this? How do we do this? How do I want to... Alright, let's do it this way. Play Magda. Tap Magda for green, play Ranger class. Oh, Auto Tapper, you suck. I should pay attention to that. I thought I was going to be more intelligent than that. Why on earth did it not leave up green? Literally the only cards I can cast are green. I have no idea why the Auto Tapper wouldn't leave up green here. This feels like a new error. Alright, well, that's a bummer. One less treasure than we're supposed to have. Alright, these two swing. We get to pump Ziatora. So I could kill Kiki-Jiki or Goldspan. I'm probably supposed to kill Goldspan. So I guess ultimately this doesn't really matter, because I still have to play the Chariot rather than activate Magda. I could activate Magda post-combat. Or post-Ziatora, but I think it's more important to kill Goldspan Dragon and deny my opponent access to enough mana to play Titan. I think they have to play Titan to survive the next turn. I don't really think they can kill a 7/7 Ziatora. Auto-Tapper is usually pretty good about leaving up colors of mana to cast spells in hand or activate abilities. I guess it didn't realize I had a 2-mana green spell because Ranger class was on the stack and not in play. But it usually still would prioritize leaving up green mana because I have a Chariot in hand. I don't know why it would leave up black and red. Huh. Weird. Maybe it's always worked that way? I don't know. Okay, so we want to play Riveteers Charm as a 4-of against pretty much every Goldspan Dragon deck, mostly without exception. Voltage Surge and Dragon's Fire are cards that are useful against Reflection, but because that's the only card in their deck that it's good against, we can't really justify keeping it. Similarly, Unleash the Inferno is good against Reflection, but because that's the only card in their deck that it's good against, we can't justify bringing it in. So this is an example of a deck where we absolutely want 3 Disdainful Strokes. I probably want 2 Snakeskin Veils. I don't know if I want 2 Negates, because I don't know how many board wipes are in their deck, and most of their late game is centered around casting 7-drop creatures that Negate doesn't hit. So my expectations on what I'm going to cut here actually wind up being mostly 4-drops, because the more we board into disruption like this, the more our game plan has to be about sticking 1 4-drop and not just playing a bunch of 4-drops, whereas the Goldspan Dragons kind of make mana themselves, so they don't actually have the opportunity cost of tapping you out of anything in the same way. And then I don't really need to have the second Ziatora so much. 1 Ziatora is still useful because it gives us an out to a Titan of Industry that just locks the board down. Okay, this is a good game plan. Goldhound is a card that does damage to our opponent, and Goldhound into Facebreaker is a hand that is good enough for me to be willing to keep. did not draw into anything meaningful, unfortunately. So we do get our 1 damage in. They might end up killing Goldhound here at the end of turn. They choose not to. They would have an incentive to wait until after damage in case I played a Magda that they're more incentivized to use removal spells on. We're kind of hoping they play Fable of the Mirrorbreaker here. It's not that it's good for us that they're playing Fable, but it means that... Oh, Magda. Turn late? Disappointing. But it does mean that my Fable of the Mirrorbreaker gets to make a treasure with Goldhound, which is nice. Okay, so our opponent could board wipe this turn, which wouldn't be the end of the world for us. They discard Flame Blessed Bolt. That's truly wild. But they keep Reckoner Bankbuster. Huh, okay. And they don't attack. Huh. Okay. So I'm playing Professional Facebreaker because this is going to give me the most treasures, which is, I think, the axis I want to try to fight on right now. Both my things have Menace, so there will be no Goblin Shaman blocking. And they didn't have removal, so I do get to make a lot of treasure here, which is pretty cool. So I guess let's just go ahead and play Jaspera Sentinel and be set up for the next turn. If my opponent's play is just, like, activate Reckoner Bankbuster, go, I am, like, so incredibly far ahead. Goldhound is truly wild. Do you never cut Innkeepers / Jaspera? No. I've never cut a Jaspera Sentinel. I've never cut... I've cut Innkeepers, but I've grown to believe that that is just incorrect. Never cut Magda. I believe those are the only cards that I've never cut. I've trimmed 1 Facebreaker against Esper, but never more than that. Okay, let's see. 3 blockers. Let's go land. Magda. I don't think I can kill my opponent here, but it's close. Activate Magda. Get Ziatora. Play Halana and Alena. Oh. That's disappointing. Well, oh well. I suppose it's probably worth sacrificing the Goldhound here. Because if I don't sacrifice the Goldhound to the double block, then they double block Facebreaker, and I just trade Facebreaker with the Goblin Shaman. Or they can just... Yeah, you can't do that, opponent. Goldhound still has Menace. Not blocking the Goldhound here is a mistake, if they trade with the Facebreaker instead, because that gives me another activation of Magda. Yeah, Facebreakers with Goldhound is like truly, truly ludicrous. I believe that I'm just supposed to activate this to get Chariot? Still hold up Snakeskin Veil in case they have a removal spell for Ziatora somehow? Oh, no, I don't need to do that. Because I'm going to get 3 treasures off the Ziatora. And they're tapped out right now. I can activate Magda at any time, but not if I want to sacrifice the thing that I'm going to go get to Ziatora, which in this specific case, I do want to do. I guess it's possible that I might want to kill the Goblin Shaman there over the Fable of the Mirrorbreaker token so that they can't Titan of Industry me. But, like, I don't know that Titan of Industry is good enough to get them out of this spot anyway. So if this is just a sack attack to get Titan of Industry out, then I'm rewarded for blocking. I think what I'm scared of is Burn Down the House. And Animating Chariot isn't really playing around Burn Down the House either. But I mean, I'll still have Ziatora, which probably just beats Burn Down the House regardless. Cool. No, it's just Titan of Industry. Okay. So they can gain some life. And get a Rhino. Destroy Chariot. Oh, wow. You're not going to gain life, opponent? You really should gain life, though, opponent. Okie dokie, if you think so. Oh, hey, cool. Shatterskull Smashing is pretty good. Alright, let's see here. How do we win? Or rather, how do we best win? What's the best lethal? I mean, I guess it's mostly just killing their stuff and then killing them. This does still let them crew the Bank Buster, but I don't think that matters. You get to, like, I don't know, block what? Magda? That's gotta still be lethal, right? Yeah, okay. Alright. So we didn't get to draw the Disdainful Stroke to blow out the Titan of Industry, but the rest of this was the usual game plan of prioritize acceleration above everything else and then just find something to do with your acceleration. This might be... This is weird, because this is like a hand that looks super good, but I actually think I'm just supposed to try to find hands that have a better start than that. Like, I think this deck is capable of having better starts than that. Speaking of having better starts than that, do I want to keep Ziatora here? I actually suspect I don't. Oh, I have to get rid of two things? Oh, yuck. Okay, well, definitely these two then. Because the game plan is play Magda on 2, play Chariot on 3, probably. It's a little risky to play Halana and Alena on 3. Okay, so we're playing against the Vampires deck again, which is bad because we're on the draw. And if they just sack Magda, or sack Harvester to kill Magda, I don't, like, actually have a game plan here. Haven't seen much Runes lately. Is it still very popular / good? No, not really. Runes is one of those decks that, like... Most decks right now are just doing things that incidentally answer the Runes game plan. Either because they're prepared for Runes... Oh, that's sad. Or... Yeah, I kind of just can't win because of the multi-5 at this point, unfortunately. Either because they just instantly answer the Runes game plan, which most control decks do. Wow. I hate that I'm going to lose to a Bank Buster that, like, does literally nothing and doesn't matter. But it's, like, still insulting. I can't even actually play this Halana and Alena into the onboard Blood Tithe Harvester with 2 blood tokens. This is pretty gross. So what I really need is a Chariot. The sad thing is, even on this multi-5, If they hadn't arrested my Chariot, I could probably still win this game. No, Jaspera Sentinel, why? You're so close to good enough, but you're not. Yeah, okay. Somehow we mulled a 5, kept a 2-lander, and still flooded out. That's not unlikely, but it is sad. Okay, Riveteers Charms, Infernal Grasp, Unleash the Inferno, cut the Voltage Surges, cut the Dragon's Fires. I think I cut the Goldhounds last time. What did I bring in then? Did I keep the Dragon's Fire? Is that correct? I don't know. I'm going to play Snakeskin Veil instead. Chris has no respect for Bankbuster. I do not. I have yet to see a deck where Bankbuster is, like, not an actual waste of space. I've seen some decks that are trying to, like, play Galazeth Prismari and use Bankbuster as a mana dork, and that's, like, very close to almost having Bankbuster be a playable card, but it comes with playing Galazeth Prismari, which is, like, also not really a card. So you're playing, like, half a card to turn your Bankbuster into one card, which still isn't a net gain. Bankbuster's somewhat reasonable in 80 card or Fiend. Is it even? I still don't actually think that's true. Bankbuster would be a playable card if it drew a card when it entered the battlefield. Or if it cost 1 mana to activate. Or if it had Crew 1. Actually, I don't know. It still might not be playable if it had Crew 1. I might be exaggerating. Alright. No green mana. That's a shame. I would absolutely keep this hand with green mana. Okay, well, this is a game plan. It's a game plan that does not like playing against removal. Now that's interesting. I'm almost tempted to play Ranger class so that I'm not exposing my Magda to a removal spell, but the reason that I think that's wrong is that if my opponent doesn't remove my Magda here, then I'm just, like, actively up on that exchange. But in a world where they have a removal spell, don't use it on the Ranger class token, and do use it on my turn 3 Professional Facebreaker, I'm, like, actively behind by having played Ranger class, and it's still not the end of the world if my opponent answers the Magda. Because I can still go turn 4 Ranger class, upgrade Ranger class, and, like, just level 3 Ranger class is threatening to be very strong. Ooh. We could also have more Magda. That's cool. I'm very tempted to upgrade Ranger class here to be more mana efficient. I probably should, but the alternative is that I could not crack a treasure to play the Jaspera Sentinel, and just play the Jaspera Sentinel now, which gets us another treasure with Magda later. Or, well, which gets us 1 treasure closer to activating Magda, but I think that's probably wrong. Especially because, if nothing else, I can level up Ranger class next turn, which is pretty strong against them. Ooh, Second Blood Tithe Harvester killing the Facebreaker is a bummer. Okay. So I don't really want to play the Prosperous Innkeeper, but I do want to upgrade the Ranger class here. I preferred Prosperous Innkeeper to have been a land, but we'll make do. Yeah, the trade implies they probably have Meat Hook. Which is understandable. If it didn't level Ranger class. The Facebreaker had Menace, so it was going to get through and not get blocked regardless. Very easy to forget that it has Menace, though. On account of it being very good already without Menace. Alright, let's see here. Let's see. So I believe I definitely want to play Facebreaker. Downside of that is I think I might have to swing with this Magda, which is a bit of a bummer. But, you know, I guess it's fine. I'm willing to trade off my Magda to get a treasure and kill their Goblin Shaman. With Facebreaker in play. So now's the part where we get to kind of abuse having knowledge at the top of our deck with Facebreaker, because I can just, like, sack this treasure to put a land into play with no risk because I'm aware that's exactly what's on top of my deck. Do I want to sack a treasure to play a Prosperous Innkeeper? In a world where the thing that I'm most scared of is Meathook Massacre for 3, I don't think that's correct to do. Negate? Oh, opponent. You don't want negate against me. Oh, hey, cool. Infernal Grasp on my Facebreaker. Fine. Opponent wants to take 2 damage to kill a Facebreaker. It's fine by me. No! Facebreaker! I need you to get lands off the top of my deck. Woe is me. Alright. So... unfortunately, I can't swing with the Jaspera Sentinel here. I'm super incentivized to put counters on Goldspan Dragon to make it harder for my opponent to Meathook it. Which, having that installation against Meathook, I think makes me comfortable playing Prosperous Innkeeper. So now they have to swing with the 2-2, hit a land drop, then Meathook me, and I still get to, like, start firing up Lair of the Hydra. Which won't be lethal, but wow. You're really bringing in Go Blank and Reckoner Bankbuster against the aggro deck, huh? Alright, you do you. Alright, now is the part where we might top deck a lot of very disappointing lands in a row. So how are we doing this best? My opponent at 4 life, Reflection of Kiki-Jiki doing stuff. So let's see, we upgrade Jaspera Sentinel, make Lair the Hydra into a 5/5, swing with everybody. They chump Lair, eat Sentinel, block Innkeeper, take 2. Go down to 2. In that case, swinging with the Innkeeper has accomplished nothing. So worth sacking a treasure to make it for 5? Probably not. Actually, probably not only if I were to swing with the Innkeeper, but I'm not swinging with the Innkeeper, so I think 5 is still worth it. These are the expected blocks. I think not killing the Innkeeper is actually pretty correct here, because it gives us another creature to threaten lethal with this turn. Cycling Xander's Lounge instead of holding up more mana for after they Reflection the Corpse Appraiser is curious. Okay, so we have 3 blockers. That's a good draw. I like that draw, on account of it being like a draw that probably wins the game. Okay, trouble being, they still get to activate Corpse Appraiser looking for a removal spell for Ziatora. So, how do we play around that? Do I have any way of denying them information here before playing Ziatora? I only need to do 2 damage. I could upgrade Prosperous Innkeeper. If they activate targeting Corpse Appraiser, eat Jaspera Sentinel, eat Innkeeper, but they have to make that decision before they know they're looking for an instant speed removal spell to Ziatora. I think I would rather just swing with Jaspera Sentinel and force them to make awkward blocks before playing the Ziatora. Oh, I guess this is risky because it makes me lose to a Voltage Surge as well. Whereas if I kept the Jaspera Sentinel back, then Voltage Surge on Corpse Appraiser wouldn't have been good enough. Oh, that's a good point. Grasp shocks them for 2. That's a very, very good point. There are not a lot of removal spells they could have here at all, which is actually a reason to have not made this attack, because it turned on Voltage Surge in a way that wasn't necessary. Very heads-up play there. Okay. Not punished for it. Yeah, I'm still pretty convinced that I can't actually justify playing very many Snakeskin Veils on the draw. It's kind of just too slow against the 1 and 2 mana removal dot deck. I think I was playing some number of Voltage Surges previously, which, I don't know, against Reflection of Kikijiki, maybe that's just correct? Reflection and Blood Tithe Harvester both incentivize me to play Voltage Surge to some extent. So basically, am I cutting Snakeskin Veil for Voltage Surge? I guess is the question. Nah, probably not. This is a weird hand. This is not the primary game plan at all. We have no acceleration, but we have a lot of impactful mid-range threats, and my opponent mulliganed when I'm on the draw. I think I'm actually going to try to do a weird keep here that is diverging strongly from the primary game plan, but I'm sort of hoping the opponent just has too many removal spells, and we just get to play a mid-range game plan when their removal spells don't have targets. Blood Tithe Harvester is a removal spell that actually does something. And we have failed to top deck the ability to do anything. We might be in trouble if they play Fabled Dimir Breaker this turn. Okay, cool. They do not. We have still failed to completely top deck the ability to do anything on the first 3 turns, which is pretty awk. Do you like the counter on Snakeskin Veil over the Indestructible on safekeeping for this deck, mainly because of Ziatora or something else too? It's also nice with Halana and Alena. And just generally pushing through damage. Like, there are no board wipes where Indestructible matters, and I'm not bringing it in as a combat trick. I am bringing it in as a way to either get over Meathook Massacre, which Cameo Safekeeping just doesn't matter against, or fizzle single target removal. And any scenario where I am trying to do either of those things is a scenario where I am implicitly the deck that is trying to kill my opponent before they get to do their big fancy thing. So I think that the +1/+1 counter has a lot of additional merit there. Not a lot of people playing Doomscar these days. That is true. Okay, well, I guess I have literally nothing better to do than play Unleash the Inferno. Do you really want to spend mana cracking the blood token here, opponent? Just to deny me the ability to destroy the blood token? Okay. Well, that's not a good Unleash the Inferno, but it is better than having literally nothing to do, which was the alternative. If there was land destruction in the deck, would you use safekeeping instead to protect your lands? I think actually still no would be the answer to that. Specifically because this is wild. What am I supposed to do here? Just like play Esika's Chariot? No. There's still too much potential. This is Evelyn, so I think I'm just supposed to run into another Infernal Grasp and just be chill with that. Let's see, I can play Esika's Chariot. They meat hook me. I have 5 mana at that point. I can't actually crew Chariot, can I? But I don't think that I can do nothing with my turn here because that is too weak against Evelyn. Evelyn into meat hook would be a bummer. Okay, Corpse Appraiser. What do you find? I'm gonna have to kill that Evelyn. It is definitely a card that can beat me. I also have Disdainful Strokes against me, so I need to beware in many ways of mana held open. The Disdainful Stroke is not in exile with Evelyn. Oh, my Riveteers Charm is, though. Cool. That definitely makes life easier on me. In terms of playing Ziatora. Rad. Oh, howdy. Hey, Miss J. Thanks for the raid. How do you stream go? Alright, let's see. What are we doing here? Do I want to crew Chariot with Goldspan if they don't let me attack with Goldspan? What if... I don't think I can take that risk. Okay. My Goldspan gets sacrificed. I could play Prosperous Innkeeper into Halana and Alena here, which gives them more opportunities to top deck removal spells with Ziatora. Is there a world in which they block Chariot with Evelyn here? Probably. I'm really hoping they block Chariot with Evelyn. Because if they don't, my life is pretty awkward. They did not. Yeah, that's pretty awkward. I took a gamble there. I wanted to be able to Ziatora fling something at Evelyn. But the opportunity cost of that was not playing Halana and Alena, not playing Innkeeper, and not playing Goldspan Dragon. So I kind of just like threw away a treasure and 4 damage. Okay, but them just totally whiffing on both Evelyn draws is very, very big, very, very good. Cool. Cool, cool, cool. We love Goldspan getting killed at sorcery speed, and our opponent taking a bunch of damage. All of that is very neat. Unfortunately, the opponent's holding up counter magic now, which means I can't just jam Ziatora anyway. So Halana and Alena. Yeah, Halana and Alena. Hope this eats the Disdainful Stroke, so that our Ziatora gets to resolve. It does. I'm okay with their cards being counterspells. They could absolutely have negate, and I wouldn't care at all. We've seen that they kept the negate in for some reason, so that's definitely a possibility. Okay, 2 Fatals is not actually, like, relevant to me at all, so that's cool. I mean, it's kind of relevant because it's a bunch more blockers, which is annoying. Okay, well, unfortunately, Disdainful Stroke is still absolutely a possibility now. There's nothing I can do about that. No Disdainful Stroke. Good start. Can I attack with Chariot here? Get Chariot killed. 5 blockers. Get through for 2 damage. Weaker against Meathook. I believe that to be incorrect, probably. Get through for 2, lose the Facebreaker. And not really acceptable. I think I'm mostly just flinging cats at face. I wonder if I'm supposed to fling Chariot at face? No, this is better against Meathook specifically. Alright, so they get to dig hyper deep for Meathook Massacre. And they have the mana to use it. They no longer have the mana to use it. Well, they do, because they still have a 2-2. Or a pair of 2-2s that make mana. Cool! Alright, they just can't answer Ziatora. Alright, so despite everything else going wrong, game plan of bait every answer to Ziatora and then play Ziatora actually succeeded. Somehow.